What if everything you think you know about reality is just the surface layer of something infinitely more profound? Something that ancient civilizations understood with such precision that they encoded it into texts so advanced, modern quantum physics is only now beginning to catch up. The Kybalion didn't emerge in isolation. It represents the culmination of thousands of years of spiritual science that began in the Vedic traditions of ancient India, where consciousness wasn't treated as philosophy, but as measurable, applicable technology. If you're here right now, reading these words, feeling something stir within you, it's not coincidence. It's resonance. Your consciousness has reached a frequency where these ancient truths can finally be received, processed, and most importantly, applied. The Vedas speak of this moment as the awakening of viveka, discriminative wisdom, where the seeker becomes capable of distinguishing between the real and the unreal, between truth and illusion. For over 5,000 years, the rishis of ancient India conducted what we can only describe as consciousness research. These weren't religious ceremonies or mystical rituals. They were systematic investigations into the fundamental nature of reality. Using techniques that combined deep meditation with precise observation, they mapped the invisible architecture of existence with the same rigor that modern scientists map DNA. What they discovered forms the foundation of everything the Kybalion later revealed to the Western world. The Upanishads, which literally means sitting close to the teacher, were not philosophical texts, but operational manuals. They described how consciousness interacts with matter, how thought creates reality, and how individual awareness connects to universal intelligence. When the Chandogya Upanishad states, Tat Tavam Asi, meaning thou art that, it's not making a poetic statement. It's revealing a scientific fact about the quantum nature of consciousness that we're only beginning to understand through modern neuroscience and quantum mechanics. Consider this carefully. The ancient Vedic seers described something they called Brahman, an infinite field of pure consciousness from which all reality emerges. Modern physics now speaks of the quantum field, a fundamental substrate of energy from which all particles and forces arise. The Vedas described Maya, the illusory nature of perceived reality, where solid matter is actually vibrating energy in constant motion. Quantum physics confirms that atoms are mostly empty space with energy patterns creating the appearance of solidity. These aren't coincidences, they're confirmations. The rishis understood something that Western science is rediscovering. Consciousness isn't produced by the brain, it's the fundamental fabric of reality itself. The brain is more like a radio receiver, tuning into different frequencies of awareness rather than generating consciousness. This is why the Isha Upanishad begins with the profound statement that the entire universe is pervaded by consciousness, that everything you see, touch, and experience is consciousness appearing in different forms. Now, when Hermes Trismegistus later emerged in the meeting point between Egyptian and Greek wisdom traditions, he was essentially translating these same Vedic principles into a form that could travel across cultures. The 7 hermetic principles aren't separate from Vedic science. They're its practical application. What the Upanishads explored in depth, the Kybalion condensed into actionable laws. But here's what most people miss. You can't truly understand the Kybalion without understanding its Vedic foundations, because that's where the real power lies. Let's start with what the Vedas call Chit, pure consciousness, which directly correlates to the hermetic principle of mentalism. The Aitareya Upanishad states, Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness is Brahman, consciousness is the absolute reality. This isn't metaphysical speculation, it's describing the primary field from which all experience arises. Modern neuroscientist Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory suggests that consciousness might indeed be the fundamental aspect of reality, with matter being a specific organization of conscious information. When you truly grasp this, everything changes. Your thoughts aren't just electrical impulses in your brain, they're modifications of the same consciousness field that manifests as stars, planets, and galaxies. The Vedas describe this as vritti, the waves or modifications of consciousness. Just as waves arise from and return to the ocean while never being separate from it, your individual thoughts arise from and return to universal consciousness. This is why changing your mental patterns literally changes your reality. You're modifying the field itself. But consciousness alone isn't enough. The Vedas speak of sat, existence or being, which connects to the hermetic principle of correspondence. The famous Vedic statement, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, means as in the microcosm, so in the macrocosm. This is identical to the hermetic axiom, as above, so below. But in Vedic science, this isn't just a philosophical concept, it's a practical tool for understanding how patterns repeat across all scales of existence. Your body contains roughly 37 trillion cells, each one containing the complete blueprint of your entire being. Similarly, your individual consciousness contains the complete pattern of universal consciousness. The Vedas call this the holographic principle, thousands of years before modern science discovered that information can be distributed throughout a system such that each part contains the whole. This is why working on yourself isn't selfish, it's cosmic service. As you heal and evolve your individual consciousness, you're literally healing the universe itself. The third aspect that the Vedas describe is Ananda, bliss or pure creative energy, which manifests as the hermetic principle of vibration. The Mundaka Upanishad describes Om as the primordial vibration from which all creation emerges. Modern string theory suggests that at the most fundamental level, reality consists of vibrating strings of energy. The frequencies of these vibrations determine what we perceive as different particles, forces, and phenomena. The ancient seers were describing the same thing when they spoke of nada, the cosmic sound that continuously creates and sustains the universe. This is where the practical application becomes revolutionary. If everything is vibration, then changing your vibrational frequency literally changes what you can perceive, experience, and create. The Vedas provide specific techniques for this called pranayama, not just breathing exercises but consciousness control technologies. When you regulate your breath with awareness, you're directly influencing your nervous system, your brainwave patterns, and your energetic frequency. Modern biofeedback research confirms that conscious breathing can shift you from stress-based beta brainwaves to coherent alpha and theta states associated with creativity, intuition, and healing. As you begin to work with these principles, you might notice something remarkable happening. Synchronicities increase, intuitive insights become more frequent, and what used to feel like hard work starts to flow more naturally. This isn't magic, it's applied consciousness science. You're aligning your individual vibration with the cosmic frequencies described in the Vedas as Rita, the natural order of the universe. When you're in harmony with Rita, life supports your evolution rather than resisting it. The Vedic understanding of Gunas, the three fundamental qualities of nature, provides the scientific basis for the hermetic principle of polarity. Rajas represents activity and dynamism, Tamas represents inertia and stability, and Sattva represents balance and harmony. Every experience, every emotion, every situation contains all three qualities in different proportions. What we call positive and negative are simply different combinations of these fundamental forces. Understanding this allows you to work with polarity rather than being trapped by it. For example, anger contains rajasic energy that can be channeled into passionate action for positive change. Depression often contains tamasic energy that, when properly understood, becomes the stable foundation for deep transformation. The key is developing what the Vedas call Sakshi Bhava, witness consciousness, the ability to observe these energetic states without being overwhelmed by them. This is the practical application of polarity, using the energy of any state to move toward greater harmony and balance. The concept of Kala Chakra, the wheel of time described in Vedic astronomy, perfectly explains the hermetic principle of rhythm. The ancient seers understood that time isn't linear but cyclical, with patterns repeating at multiple scales simultaneously. Your personal rhythms reflect cosmic rhythms, your emotional cycles mirror planetary cycles, and your life phases align with vast evolutionary cycles spanning thousands of years. Modern chronobiology confirms that our bodies operate according to multiple overlapping rhythms that connect us to solar, lunar, and seasonal patterns. When you understand rhythm as cosmic law rather than personal limitation, you stop fighting your natural cycles and start dancing with them. The Vedas describe this as living in accordance with Dharma, your unique role in the cosmic order. This doesn't mean passive acceptance. It means intelligent cooperation with the larger patterns that govern all existence. Sometimes Dharma requires intense action, sometimes deep rest, sometimes learning, sometimes teaching. The wisdom lies in recognizing which phase you're in and responding appropriately. The law of karma, perhaps the most misunderstood Vedic principle, is actually the most precise description of cause and effect ever formulated. Karma isn't punishment or reward, it's the universe's feedback system for consciousness development. Every action, thought, and intention creates what the Vedas call sanskaras, energetic impressions that influence future experiences. Modern neuroscience describes this as neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated patterns of activity. What you practice becomes your automatic response. What you focus on literally reshapes your neural architecture. But here's the advanced understanding that most people miss. Karma operates across multiple timescales simultaneously. Some karmic patterns manifest immediately, others take years or lifetimes to mature. The Vedas describe 3 types of karma: prarabdha, the karma currently manifesting in your life; sanchita, the accumulated karma from all past actions; and agami, the karma you're creating right now through your current choices. Understanding this allows you to work skillfully with causation rather than feeling victimized by circumstances. As you practice these principles, you begin to embody what the Vedas call jnana, direct knowing rather than intellectual understanding. This is where the real transformation happens. You're not just learning concepts, you're actually rewiring your consciousness to operate according to cosmic law. The Bhagavad Gita describes this as yoga, the union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness through aligned action. This is the ultimate goal of all hermetic and Vedic practices, not escape from reality, but conscious participation in its creation. The principle of gender, described in the Kybalion as the masculine and feminine aspects present in all creation, finds its deepest expression in the Vedic understanding of Shiva and Shakti. Shiva represents pure consciousness, the unchanging witness awareness. Shakti represents creative power, the dynamic force that manifests all phenomena. These aren't separate entities, but complementary aspects of one reality. In practical terms, effective creation requires both the stability of focused awareness and the dynamism of inspired action. Modern brain research reveals that we have distinct neural networks associated with focused attention and creative insight. The default mode network, active during rest and introspection, correlates with the receptive Shakti aspect. The task positive network, active during focused activity, correlates with the directive Shiva aspect. Optimal performance and creativity emerge when these networks are balanced and synchronized. The Vedic practices of meditation and mindful action are technologies for achieving this balance. Now, here's where everything comes together in a way that can fundamentally alter your relationship with reality. The Vedas describe something called turiya, the 4th state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. In this state, you experience yourself as pure awareness, the unchanging witness of all changing phenomena. Modern neuroscience has identified this as a distinct brainwave pattern characterized by high gamma frequency coherence across multiple brain regions. This isn't just a mystical experience, it's a measurable shift in consciousness that fundamentally changes how you perceive and interact with reality. When you begin to stabilize access to this witnessing awareness, the hermetic principles stop being concepts you apply and become the natural functioning of your consciousness. You don't think about mentalism, you directly experience reality as modifications of awareness. You don't practice correspondence, you naturally perceive the connections between inner and outer patterns. You don't work with vibration, you become conscious vibration itself. This is what the ancient texts mean by self-realization, not becoming something new, but recognizing what you already are. The practical applications of this integrated understanding are limitless. In relationships, you begin to see others as aspects of the same consciousness you are, which naturally generates compassion and understanding. In work and creativity, you tap into the unlimited creative potential that the Vedas call Icha Shakti, the power of conscious intention. In health and healing, you work with the body's innate intelligence, what Ayurveda calls prana, the life force that maintains and repairs all biological systems. In manifestation, you align with what the Vedas call sankalpa, resolve backed by cosmic intelligence rather than personal will. But perhaps the most profound shift is in your relationship with time and purpose. The Vedas describe human life as having 4 primary aims: Dharma, righteous living; Artha, material prosperity; Kama, enjoyment and fulfillment; and Moksha, spiritual liberation. These aren't sequential stages, but integrated aspects of a complete life. When you understand your deeper purpose as consciousness evolution, every experience becomes valuable, every challenge becomes an opportunity for growth, and every moment becomes an expression of the sacred. As you integrate these teachings, you might notice that your desires begin to shift. What once seemed urgently important may feel less compelling, while previously ignored aspects of life suddenly become fascinating. This isn't loss of motivation, it's the emergence of what the Vedas call dharmic desires, wants that arise from your deeper nature rather than social conditioning. These desires naturally align with cosmic evolution, so pursuing them feels effortless and fulfilling. You're not swimming against the current anymore, you're flowing with the river of existence itself. The ultimate test of this understanding isn't in peak experiences or mystical states, but in how you handle ordinary daily life. Can you maintain equanimity during stress? Can you see opportunity in apparent obstacles? Can you respond rather than react when challenged? Can you recognize the sacred in the mundane? These are the practical fruits of applied consciousness science. The Vedas call this sahaja samadhi, natural enlightenment, where awakened awareness becomes your ordinary state rather than a special experience. Modern quantum physics suggests that consciousness might indeed be fundamental to reality, with matter emerging from information patterns in a conscious field. If this is true and the evidence is mounting, then the ancient Vedic seers were describing literal scientific truth. You are not a biological machine that happens to be conscious. You are consciousness itself, appearing as a biological form. This changes everything about how you approach personal development, relationships, creativity, and life purpose. You're not trying to improve yourself. You're removing the barriers to your natural perfection. The Kybalion, understood through its Vedic foundations, becomes not just a book of principles, but a handbook for conscious evolution. Each principle is a doorway into deeper understanding. Each practice is a step toward greater freedom. Each application is an act of cosmic creativity. You're not separate from the intelligence that moves the stars and grows the trees. You are that intelligence appearing in unique individual form. Your personal transformation is the universe knowing itself more fully through your particular perspective. This is why the Kybalion only reveals itself to those ready to change reality. It's not hidden to keep people out. It's encoded to ensure that those who find it are prepared to use it responsibly. With great power comes great responsibility, and the power to consciously create reality through aligned thought, emotion, and action is perhaps the greatest power there is. The Vedas call this Brahma Vidya, knowledge of the Absolute, and they're clear that this knowledge naturally leads to service, compassion, and the upliftment of all consciousness. As we reach the end of this exploration, remember that knowledge without application remains merely intellectual entertainment. The ancient rishis emphasized abhyasa, consistent practice, as the key to transformation. Start with one principle, work with it daily until it becomes natural, then gradually integrate the others. Begin each day with conscious intention, end each day with grateful reflection. Observe how your inner state correlates with your outer experiences. Practice shifting your vibration through breath, meditation, and positive focus. Most importantly, trust the process. You are consciousness itself awakening to its own infinite nature. The door is open, the path is clear, and the power is already within you. The only question remaining is this: are you ready to step through that door and claim your birthright as a conscious creator of reality? The ancient wisdom keepers are calling across the centuries, offering you the keys to the kingdom. The choice, as always, is yours. But if you've made it this far, if these words resonate in your heart and spark recognition in your soul, then you already know what that choice will be. Welcome to your awakening. The real journey begins now.